So I'm Jonas. I'm developer at Visuell Verstehen. And I would like to talk about zero-downtime deployment. It simply did bug me that there wasn't a way, or at least that I didn't knew a way to deploy with zero-downtime deployment. First of all, let's talk about it. I mean, it's a great word, it's a fancy phrase, but what is zero-downtime deployment? So normally, if deploying your page, you need to call commands like composer install. This will kick out some files, get some new files into the system. Maybe you need to generate new CSS files, JavaScript, maybe generating some images. And in that time where you're doing that, kind of building your page, your users can't visit it. They may get an error message. You can use a command like php artisan down, saying, hey, we're in maintenance. You could even add a GIF saying, hey, we are back in a few minutes, but still users can't visit the page in that amount of time. So there's a really popular package out there. It's called Deployer. It's free, and it's widely used in the PHP community. So that's why I took a deeper look into it. Deployer is actually simply connecting with your server over SSH and doing all the deployment there for you. But there's one big difference. Deployer is doing that deployment in a separate folder, kind of building in parallel. Let me show you what I mean. So this is a deployer setup. This is might be a server. A server will see and set up together in a minute. So this folder current, it's actually not a folder, but current is the entry point. So if a user visits the page, live.statameet.com, you can really visit that domain. Then the user will be redirected or not the user, the folder will point to a release. In this case, release number 2. And if deploying a new page, then in this example, it would create folder 3 in the releases folder, and building everything from scratch, pulling the data, composer, npm, generating assets, simply everything. And first, as a last step, after everything is finished, the symlink will change. So there's simply no downtime. Your page is available all the time. In Deployer, there are so-called recipes, and recipes are a boilerplate. So these are a few examples. So in the Statamic recipe, which I could PR into the core, and I'm really happy about it, we're extending the Laravel one, because we need all the Laravel stuff, and we'll put Statamic things on top of that. For example, the recipe will make all Statamic commands available, so you can use them in your custom deploy script, which we'll create together in a minute as well. There is a basic kind of deploy command. This is in there as well, so you don't need to write anything. It would deploy, but you need some tweaking. If using static caching, maybe you would like to do lots of things. I mean, Michael talked about it, and it really depends a lot on your application or on your website, what you are building. So you need the freedom to do whatever you need to. And Deployer is giving you that. So yeah, what about static caching? Just starting with it, static caching is a no-brainer. You can simply do it. You need to add a few commands, and you need to add an nginx config. It's well documented, so no problem there. The Git integration. It's actually Aaron who did bug me kind of, is this thing working, Jonas? And yeah, it is. I did some testing. I did try it locally, and it did work great with a little tweaking, but it needs to be battle tested. So I would like going out to the community and trying it together, and let's see, are there things where it's not working? So we need to figure it out together, but I'm pretty sure it does work. That's our plan for today. So I would like showing you how you can use Deployer just from your local machine, deploying to the server. This is great if you're a single developer and don't want too much overhead for more automation. Just saying this in advance, none of these ways is better than the other one. It's just different. Okay, so the second approach, which I'll show you as well, is deploying automatically via GitHub Actions. So that does mean if you're pushing your code to the server, or if you're pushing your code to GitHub, then a job will start automatically and do all the deployment for you. So it's a no-brainer then, but of course you need to set up all the automation and things, so it's more overhead. The great thing is if working in a big team, you need to set it up once, and really if someone is making some changes, the deployment just does work. Setting up one server, yeah, I mean, let's do that, but why not do two? So let's do live and let's do staging. So I can give you a few tools which you can use for your projects. So that's the plan. A little thirsty. Just a short word about actions. It's if you never heard about them, GitHub Actions, they are basically it's an automated job. They call it workflow. So there are different hooks you can use, like pushing to a repository, and then the job can be executed. It's even used for deployment, but it can as well used for automated testing. If you're writing a complex app, maybe some functions, calling different things, you can use PHP unit or pest tests, and you can run them. And in case one of those tests does fail, your application won't be deployed. So this is really handy, and we are using it a lot and on work. Giving you an overview, this is what we are working with. So that's the computer, that's mine, hey. Then there's Forge, managing our server. Forge is just one example. I'm not getting paid using Forge. Why not, actually? Huh. And I will be using GitHub with GitHub Actions, as I know that most of the community is using GitHub. And GitHub Actions actually are free to a total amount of 2,000 minutes a month, I think. Those are lots of deployment. So you're getting really far with those free minutes. So, right, let's get started. And the fun thing is, we'll do everything live. Let's see if something does break. Oops, we don't need that. So what I did here is I did create a server with Forge. I won't show you all of those steps. It's simply too much and the time is not enough. Aaron would say, read the docs about deploying. Here you can see like which services are available. Forge is only one example. You could use Ploy, it's really popular as well. And how to set up those things. They are really well documented. Zero-Downtime is not, so I would like focusing on Zero-Downtime. The server is there, it's live, Statameet.com. Feel free to visit it. It's just the Forge default template right now. And I did set up SSL, so we are having a secure connection. That's everything. The rest is really just a fresh whipped up server, nothing more. As well, there's my repository, just pulled from GitHub. Nothing fancy there as well. Okay, deployer. We need to set up deployer. There's a documentation saying that version 7 is in beta right now. The PR for the Statamic recipe is so fresh that it's not in any version yet. But we'll do it anyways. Okay, installation, the source right here. I'll copy that. So we want or need to install it via Composer. Let's do that. That's my terminal. Composer require, and now we'll see it failing. Cool. As said, we need to pull the dev master branch. I wouldn't do that in production, but right now I think it's all right. But just be sure if you're using the dev master for a production page, it might break if some changes kind of are breaking. Okay, so it's there. you can call deployer. Let me clean this screen. PHP vendor bin deep. That's the command. You might see that there are a few things available, not that much. We want to initialize it for our project, so let's do that. Vendor bin deep init. Cool. Yeah, you can use PHP or YAML. I think YAML does feel best for Statamic, right? But you could do PHP as well. There is the Statamic recipe. It's 15. Great. Already knows the repository. Project name, yeah, let's say Statameet. Okay, hosts. Simply Forge as username. And let's get our IP address right here. Back to the terminal. Great. Let's call it again and see what did change. Oh, wow. Okay. So those are all the artisan commands for Laravel. Like for Horizon, if we're working heavily with queues, migrating, cache clear and stuff. Those are deploy commands. We won't use them that much. And Statamic specific commands as well. So you can use all of them. If something is missing, let's talk, and I'm sure we could PR it into the core as well. So yeah, I mean, let's take a look to the editor, how things do look now. So there it is, deploy YAML. This is kind of where the magic happens. So just so you don't need to watch me making lots of typos, I got something prepared here. I would like starting with hosts. This is great if you're having one host, but I would like setting it up a little different, and I'll explain why. Okay, like that. So we are using just kind of a tag, which I'm calling live. So later, if deploying, I'm saying deploy, and now I can simply say live. So it's using my live setup right here. As I told you, we'll do staging as well. Let's simply do that. So let's call it, staging. The host name is the same. It's the same server. It's a different directory though, and a different domain. And it will be main for now. We can change that later. So now we got 2 hosts set up. We could do more. But as said, I could use deploy live or deploy staging, which is really, really nice. One more thing about the config. I do like the idea of saying keep 3 releases. I can adjust that number. There is a default, but I think it's just nice seeing it there. So I really know it's 3 releases, and every developer joining the project doesn't know. It just gives me kind of clarity. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. And the tasks. I told you we want to adjust the deployment script. This would use the default, and normally the default is only okay, but you should tweak it for sure. Just saying, so all of those things I'm using here, I do have a gist on GitHub where you simply can copy and paste it later. So I'll publish the link somehow, somewhere, I don't know. Okay, this is our main deploy command, and it will call deploy prepare, deploy vendors. So it's setting up the basics. Then calling npm production. And this is a custom command. I could call it whatever I want to. I don't need those dots. I can give it any name. And then I'm saying, okay, if calling this command, I'll do this script. So I'm cd to the release path, saying npm ci, and then npm run production. If I would use yarn, I could say yarn, and so on. If you need more commands which aren't in the recipe, just add them here and call them. Here's an artisan storage link. It's a Laravel thing. We won't need it. I'm just keeping it in there. I'm using the artisan optimize clear command. You might not know it. So it's kind of a bundled command clearing all the caches. So it's including like the view cache, like the cache, like the route cache and everything. It's just bundled. we'll generate the presets, warm the stash. As we learned from Michael, this is a good thing. Artisan optimize, which then will cache everything again. And the last step will change our symlink. So this is it. Cool. Okay, one thing about assets. Every release will live in its own folder. So without having a shared directory, every release would contain all the assets. Think about maybe keeping 5 or 10 releases of your page and having tons of assets. Every assets would be saved in this release. This would just take a huge amount of disk space. So what you can do is share a directory. So this directory will be shared through every release. This would mean your assets would only be there once on your server. And this is saving lots of disk space. I think for the page of the size we're building, this is great. If you're building something bigger, more fancy, you might choose a different path. But as I said, I think it's fine for now. Cool, let's deploy it. So the setup has been done. Let's clear that. And let's watch our script fail again. Deploy live. I'm adding a -v. That stands for verbose. And it simply does show us much more output so we can debug easier. And great, that's what I did expect. Permission denied. Well, our local machine needs to be authenticated with Forge, of course. So I'll need my my SSH key. Cat here, SSH, IDR, public, and I want to copy it, PV copy. That does look about right. Okay, I'm going to the server settings here. SSH keys. Oh, Michael is still in there. This might be a security issue. I'm not sure if he's behaving. Mac and here. I'll just name it like that. I'm adding it, and Forge will add it to the server. So going back to the terminal, we should see this thing working. Deploy live. As said, this will deploy to our live server. And there it's running. Great. Lots of information. Don't worry about that. Okay. So this does take a while, especially as the assets will be generated. So we'll keep kind of working with our Nginx configuration. We need doing that as we are using symlinks, and Nginx does have a special relationship with symlinks, at least on the Forge setup. So if on the server itself, like this one, live Statameet, I can edit the Nginx configs under files, Nginx configuration right there. Okay. The main key for zero downtime deployment is using symlinks. So I'll need to add like disable symlinks off. It's kind of, it's really saying disable symlinks. No, we want them enabled. This is enabling them. So not being kind of cached. And this is some more internal caching. I won't explain exactly what it does. You just need to believe me. As said, the script will be available. So we need to add those 3 lines. This one inside the location, and this right here for the server. Let's save that. Okay, good. There's one more little thing. Forge does use public as a default. We need to go into the current, the symlink, and then into the public folder. This is special for a deployer. So that has been changed. Just showing you what it did. Open the Nginx configuration again, and here you might see current public. It did change the root. Okay, good. That's good. Let's take a look at our deployment script. You see it's still generating those images. And maybe you're visiting the page and you might see nothing, just no input file. This is the first deployment, so if it has been set up, it will work. Okay. The next thing, if visiting the page in, I don't know, I think in a few seconds, we could play some music. Nice. It will show a server error, like an internal server error. And that's simply because there's no environment file. And if there's no environment file, the application will be set to production, and app debug will be set to false. That does simply mean no errors will be shown. So if seeing this internal server error, we should be pretty happy. So I'm still waiting here. Come on. We should be there in a few seconds. I think so. And still not working. Good. We can't do it yet. We need the first deployment to be finished. So we need to wait. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's watch that internal server error. There it is. Ha. Okay. Let me just reopen, making sure it's right. Okay. I did prepare it. This is a fresh key. Of course, we should use like production. Just seeing our errors, I will leave it turned on. But in production, please don't do that. It's just kind of for now. And this has been applied, and the error will still be there. Well, if you remember, we did cache the config. So the config changes will simply not be picked up. So let's connect to our server. It's SSH. Oops. Forge. Let's see if we got it here. Yep, that's the right one. Go into live Statameet current. Let me show you quickly. This is just a simple kind of app, as you know it. PHP artisan config clear it is. Okay, good. And here we are. It's there, it's working. I will do some changes. I'll continue, and feel free visiting the page. And if deploying, you'll see that it always will be available. No downtime. It's your job checking up on that. So just in parallel, I'll start deploying to our staging server, as this will take a while, so we don't need to wait later. Okay. See. Okay, it's working. Good. So this is our first step. We did it from our local machine. As said, if you're a single developer, this is totally fine. But I would like taking it a step further, showing you a different way with GitHub Actions. So if visiting the repo, yeah, I call the deployment really creative. Sorry about that. There is an Actions tab, and we can set up a deployment here. Of course, I did prepare that as well. Set up this workflow. I would like calling it CI Live for continuous integration. You can name it whatever you want. The name does not matter at all. And let me push that to main as well. Okay, that's good. And it will fail, but we'll talk about that. I'll just need to pull the latest data down to my computer from the repo. If adding a workflow, it's simply added in .github workflows. So it's YAML again. We do have a name here. It's up to you how we would like to name it. And what's saying is the workflow live CRI will be triggered on push. I could even remove that, but then it would deploy on every branch. I think that's not what you want. So we want to deploy from our main branch to production. Then we can define some jobs. I'll simply call it deploy live. We use Ubuntu, as our Forge is using Ubuntu as well. Well, I think at least it's Linux, so this will be fine. Checking out the code. So the package actions checkout version 2 will pull the code from GitHub, setting it up. Then we'll set up PHP. all those extensions are not needed. This is kind of a great default. If you're running tests and everything, we'll install dependencies via Composer. And there's as well a package for deployer. So it's pretty simple. We only need to say deploy live here, adding the -v, and this is everything we do need. Those 29 lines. There's a private key, and we have not added it yet, so it will fail. And it did. Let's see here. Yips, it's saying SSH add error loading key. Well, we haven't created it yet. This one is still working. Okay. You could use your own SSH key from your computer, but this is a security risk, so I would not do that. Let's create a new one instead. There's a great short documentation on GitHub, so you can simply type GitHub create SSH keys, but there are many more out there, so use whatever you prefer. Just copying this command, but I said there's lots of stuff out there. Back to the command line. I'm simply using a non-existing mail address here. Not sure if I need it or thought about that actually. Okay, GitHub keys, key, okay. No passphrase, we don't need that. That has been created. So I would like setting up the public key first. We did call it GitHub key public. Okay, this it is. Let's add it via Forge. Nope. To the server. SSH keys. Let's call it GitHub actions. Edit. Great. Back to the command line. I want to copy the private key. And I need to add this to the workflow so it can be injected here. And internally, they simply call it secrets. And now I can recall any secret I did save on GitHub. In your repository, go to Settings, Secrets, and here you can add your repository secrets. I'll call it private key, but you can name it whatever you like. Adding it, boom, it's there. Private key as a secret, and you can see secrets private key. So let's simply run our script again. Oops, right here, sorry about that. I need to go back to my repository, the Actions tab, and there it is, our job. So we can say rerun it. Okay. Come on. So it'll wait for a machine in the cloud. This is important to understand, right? So GitHub Actions is running in the cloud, and starting a new workflow does simply set up a new machine somehow, and you need to authenticate it with your server. This is why we need to add the private key, so the server does know that it's authenticated. Installing dependencies does install all our Composer dependencies, and then it'll use deployer. Okay, let's see. This is normally because it couldn't find our key. Let's double check if we did this correctly. Seems like we made a mistake. That's always the fun if doing this live, I guess. Private key. Private key, that's correct. Great. This needs to be right here. No typo there. That's good as well. And let's copy the public key again, just making sure this is set up correctly. Okay, SSH keys. Let's remove this one and then try again. GitHub actions. Okay. Good. And let's rerun the job. Still installing, so I'm waiting. Okay. And let's rerun it. Okay, in the meantime, the live page is there. We do have a staging page as well. And there is the error again. So what we need to do, of course, is adding an environment file. We already did that on the other page. So let's move in here. Let me open up my prepared environment file. This one is simply basic to kind of cut the noise so we can focus on the deployment itself. We'll use the command line again. Oops, sorry for jumping, but we're short on time. One more, and then it's staging. Okay, let's do that. CD staging, current PHP artisan config clear. Great. Now you'll see the page here as well. Amazing. Okay. So right now, let's tweak it a little, and I want to show you how we can push different changes to different stages. We don't need those keys anymore. Oops, deploy. Okay. Yeah. I'm just commenting this out as we do have generated all the assets right now. And if we may be adding 1 or 2 assets, it's fine if if they are being created on the fly, at least for our demo. For your application, you might change that. Okay, I'll push that to main. Update GitHub workflow and deployer script, maybe something like that. I'm pushing that to main, and let's create a dev branch. So main, creating a new branch, dev. One thing we want to change there is calling this dev. So we want the staging server to deploy our dev branch only. Well, so let's remember as well, this one is only running if we're on the main branch. So we need to create a workflow for our staging server as well. CI staging. We could do 2 jobs, but if it's getting more complicated, I like it being separated, even with kind of code duplication, because this does stay the same. We'll simply say staging here, and then we can say, create what is it? Staging, branch, deployment, whatever. Oh, that's close. Thinking about good commit messages in a talk, that's pretty hard. Okay, and let's see how things do work now. So they are running. Okay, and it's already deploying. The error has been what I've just seen right now. We didn't deploy the latest changes to our GitHub repo. So the composer log file has not been updated. So our GitHub actions did not have the PHP deployer package. So we did change that now. So everything is running smoothly, as you might see. Okay, so it's already running our npm production command. And the nice thing is we are kind of deploying here to both branches right now, and our pages are still online. We are rebuilding the assets, and we still do have the old assets and everything. So it's really zero downtime. Feel free, check it out, live.statameet.com and staging. And yeah, it did work. And you can see this one has been triggered live CI for the main branch and staging CI for our dev branch. So the great thing is, let's change some content. Just, showing you that it's working. Otherwise, people are saying like, hey, I don't believe you. So let me make you believe me. Statameet. Yeah. This is the dev branch. So making a great content change. And I will push that. Let me just see if the action has been finished for dev. No, not yet. We'll need to wait. I'll drink a glass of water, saying cheers out there. Okay, getting close to 2 minutes. Our deployment does take about around 2 minutes. So it's it's from the npm production command. So we are nearly there. Great watching the system work. Okay, so let's push our great content change. And this one is on the dev branch. So by pushing this one, we'll expect an action being triggered. Yips, our staging action that's working. And we'll expect a content change on staging.statameet.com. It's not there yet, but still available. And we'll need to wait those 2 minutes. There's no static caching set up now, just using the time. If you're interested in that, and you should definitely check it out, you can use like Statamic, what is it? Static warm, for example, to all static pages that they are being created. So that's all about you need to do. That's everything. Just remember the docs on Statamic to set up your Nginx correctly for static caching. Okay, still running, 43 seconds there. Come on, 1 minute. Okay, so this is taking a little long, so I'm making it shorter. Just as a roundup, setup deployer. This is the magic happening, our deploy YAML file. And if you want to, you can set up a workflow. And this is doing all the magic for you as well. That's kind of the key part. I mean, it's hard remembering all those things. So I'm not sure if this is the best way sharing it. Show you anyways. This is my repo, and I will send out the link to the gists, and there you can find some examples. So I'll publish them anywhere. So you can use them and play around with those, okay? So it should be done in a second here. Come on, 7 seconds, I guess. But you might see staging still available. Nothing happening there. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, warming the stash, optimizing. Great. Should be here. And it does work seamlessly. Great. The next step, I don't want to make you watch this. You can then create a pull request to your main branch. Add a great description here, telling what you're doing. And your coworkers or your team can see what you did change. And yeah, great content change here. So you can simply say, right, this is what we want, merge it. And if merging, a new action will be triggered and it will deploy to the live page. So I won't make you watch this, but in 2 minutes, you can see the change applying on our live page as well. And that's about it for zero downtime deployments.